some things with us, some updates.
And there. Well, folks, I'm Kenny Wallis. I'm a conservative activist and an occasional salesman for FedEx. That's what my main job does, mainly pay the bills. I'm here to give some kind of an update on several issues that are going on in the state of Arkansas.
Did you see the key cake came in a FedEx box?
Yes, I did notice that. They almost rely on the shipping industry, 97% for on-time and complete delivery. But I'm here to, of course, as people know, the primary judicial elections are March the 3rd. You should be able to get a sample ballot at the Secretary of State's office website or at your county clerk's office. Early voting has already started. The deadline to register for the primary was February 3rd. And almost all of you will probably know somebody who will be like, well, I don't know where to vote, and am I registered to vote? If they haven't registered by February 3rd, it's too late. It's usually 30 days before an election. However, there could be possible what we call primary runoff elections, where if the candidate's not get 50%, it goes into a runoff. And I know there's one judicial race where there are 3 opponents running in the race, so that has a possibility in this area.
Yeah, I got just to carry out. Yeah.
Poll watchers and workers are still needed in places. There has been examples of voter fraud and mistakes. Of course, the Democrats screwed up the Iowa caucus with their system. But we can't laugh too hard because there have been screw-ups in Arkansas elections before. Every vote does count. There is actually a Democrat state representative, John Walker, passed away. They had a special election for him, and I believe it was not quite 400 votes that were cast for either candidate. And, as it stands, I believe it's either tied or one candidate is ahead by 1 vote. And I actually managed the defeat of a tax increase in mine. It was a $107 million school village tax. It was defeated by 8 votes. So they later came back and passed it. They only needed $93 million. And that's one of the scam special elections I'll talk about a little later. But right now, our biggest threat to the USA in Arkansas, to me, and to just what I believe is what I call just the bureaucracy, sometimes called the deep state. Little Rock, Paul Harrell, a former radio political host, referred to as the Marble Palace. Robert Steinbach and 101.1 FM The Answer calls them bureau hacks. When we think about the impeachment, that was done by officials in our State Department. Caramella, he was supposedly the whistleblower, actually wasn't a real whistleblower. Vindman, Peter Strzok, these people at FBI are important agencies. The bureaucrats have for a long time done a lot of damage to this nation as a whole. These are the people that used Fast and Furious, which was a gun running operation in Mexico. It ended up killing a border patrol agent. Lots of innocent Mexicans died. That was an attempt to frame gun owners, you, me, and everyone else who owned guns, for the violence in Mexico, so that people like Bloomberg could pass rules to get rid of our guns. That was the purpose of that. And a real whistleblower pointed that out and let people know about it. But Eric Holder is still walking around free. All those other people that were part of that, they're still walking around free. The IRS, because they denied taxes and status and their statuses, the Tea Party groups, and then they destroy the computers. These are the people that can track down where you spent your money 5-10 years ago, but they destroyed their evidence that they were involved in denying tax statuses to conservative groups while allowing them to liberal groups. And of course, Hillary Clinton, she was, among the many things she did, is she failed to secure the Benghazi embassy while spending money on trip parties in Colombia and chandeliers in the Belgian embassy. And of course, a lot of people, the reason I bring this up is a lot of people thought when Trump got into office that he was going to be able to fix everything. And a lot of these bureaucrats are holdovers from the Bush administration, the Clinton administration.
It's Republicans and Democrats.
Yes, it is.
We need a clean house.
And sadly, this red state here, we think, boy, we're double digits for Trump. We should be clear of this. No, we're not. And I actually bothered to name names. John Seelig, he was the former Arkansas health insurance czar. When they came out with Arkansas Obamacare Medicaid expansion, it was called the private option. It was supposed to have verification software to make sure that people only were qualified for it would get it. They ended up spending anywhere from $150 to $200 million on the software. It did not work. It would have continued not to have worked if not for the efforts of Senator Brian King and others to ask questions about it. It would have continued to put more people. We still have likely, I don't know how many illegals and out-of-state folks that are on that program. They've supposedly vetted it out. They renamed it from the private option to Arkansas Works, and they added a work verification process into it, and there's legal bouncing around regarding that. But I believe the latest judicial ruling was that they said that they can require people to work in order to get Medicaid stamps.
That's right, and that was just last week.
Yes.
There's no oversight of that program either. I mean, they have all these stipulations, but nobody enforces it, so
Yeah, Arkansas DHS has been involved in losing millions of dollars in other programs. They're also involved in the Stanley case where a family of, I believe, 9 had SWAT and the sheriff's office show up and take the kids away, supposedly for what was an allegedly use of an illegal plant, as a medication on a child. Turns out it was not illegal. And there's been other cases involving child services there. Little Rock School District is one of many that's in fiscal distress. Several of our schools are having to raise what we call special election tax increases, and we're still dumping more money into these schools and we're getting less bang for a buck. And then, of course, as you know, in November we're going to have a tax increase, a sales tax. They call it an extension. It is actually a tax increase because it was supposed to expire in 2023. It is known as Issue 1 on the ballot in November. The Arkansas Department of Transportation has wasted millions on bike trails, noise reduction walls, bureaucrat salaries, pet projects. One was a $1 million building that's being done at a tech park. Scott Bennett, the director of Arkansas for Arkansas Department of Transportation, he's been in there for 7 years. And you know, I think about how these football coaches like Bielema, they screw up, we kick him out. This guy's in charge of something that's a lot more important than football. He's been around a long time, and our roads are still, you know, well, you can see
There's a lot of crosses out there on the highways.
Crosses and cones.
Yeah, I mean, you go through the piney woods and every half a mile you got a cross, somebody's putting up a cross, somebody died right there.
Yeah, and in 540, of course, there's the cones. Jacksonville, somebody in the city of Jacksonville said, welcome to the city of Jacksonville, and it's a bunch of roads and cones because they've had construction there forever. And yet, what's the solution? The same thing as at the federal level. We need more money, we need more power.
Well, Scott announced he's retiring,
Yes.
which he may see handwriting on the wall with this increase. Maybe
Yeah.
that's why he's retiring.
Yeah.
I think that was yesterday or today. Maybe?
Yeah, I think it was a few days ago that he announced he was going to retire. Yeah, I was about
it
to
was
say.
yesterday.
But of course, you know, he's going to be replaced by another bureaucrat, and you know, it just keeps on going on. One of the things we noticed that me and Rebecca went to the Little Rock's board of directors meeting that they had, and they decided they're having a special election tax increase at the end of summer. They can't wait till November. They couldn't have scheduled it for March. They had to do it at a time when they know that it'll minimize voter turnout. At this one meeting, they decided to spend $58,000 on LED lights and then $250,000 on regional economic development. Didn't name the company, just $250,000 went away, but they need tax increases, supposedly for the roads and bridges and then other pet projects. You know, this red state should not have a problem with, you know, dealing with these issues, passing these, you know, special election scams. We should have got rid of them years ago. In North Little Rock, we had a school millage on Valentine's Day. They scheduled it on that day. There's been one scheduled a few days before Christmas. And of course, it's the same thing. They have an excuse, they waste money on pet projects and salaries, and then they claim they have no money for police or fire or the kids, etc. And of course, in the state legislature, I was down there at the Capitol during the last time I fought for a bill that cut the funding to these cities that provide what we call sanctuary, where they refuse to cooperate with ICE. If an illegal alien is arrested for a crime, they're supposed to, you know, hold them in jail and then contact ICE to have them reported. Well, there were some cities, particularly Fayetteville, that were hinting at or making policies to where they would just let these illegals go.
Well, and a little closer to home, Pine Bluff, a alderman or city councilman with Pine Bluff,
Yes.
is wanting to make Pine Bluff essentially.
I believe he tried to do that and he tabled it. And then Little Rock has been issuing IDs to illegal aliens.
Did the governor step on that then?
Well, not officially, but here's what happened. When we first proposed it, it went through the Senate committee in the Senate, and then it goes to the House committee. And when we put it in the House committee, there were a number of legislators who simply were not in their chairs at the time. They were absent. I know at least 2 of them were in the seat and got up when it came time for voting. And so it didn't pass then, so I went to Jan Morgan, who was doing a radio show at the Capitol, and she and I did a live stream blog about what had happened. They rescheduled the meeting for the next day, which they usually don't do. All these legislators were suddenly able to show up, and they were able to vote on it and pass in committee. It passed in the House overwhelmingly, and then the governor, after a few days, he did sign it.
That was refuting the sanctuary city.
Yeah, that cuts state funding to sanctuary cities. Remember, they can still do it if they want to. They just don't get state funds.
Correct, yeah.
And so that went into effect, I believe in January this year.
Now, how long have they been doing license to illegals?
The city of Little Rock started issuing IDs to them, I think, under the previous mayor before Frank Scott. I think it was Stolos, so I think about.
So it's just a state ID, it's not a driver's license like me?
It is a Little Rock ID. It's issued by the city, and it's supposed to allow them certain access to things, some
Public
It's
transit.
a problem,
Transit.
it's a problem because it just keeps escalating.
Yeah,
You get
yeah, and
that,
so it's
you get
different in different places.
The next
like-
one and the next one.
Yeah, like California is allowing driver's licenses to
So,
illegals.
yeah, New York is too, and they're letting people vote for that too.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it ends up being that, it's not the way it started out.
Yeah.
But look at this finances of California from allowing illegals to come into their state period, but into their sanctuary cities. California's bankrupt.
Oh, sure.
And the crime out there is crazy, and they're all, maybe they'll come to southeast Arkansas.
We
A lot of
should
them are
continue
Texas
the wall
Indian.
up the coast.
Yeah. Well, sadly, yeah, a lot of them are going into Texas, and they're trying to turn Texas blue. And between that and the illegals that are going there, as well as the refugees, and that's another thing that's been brought up is our governor did decide to accept some more refugees. One of the things that we've been wanting to deal with is actually is what refugee rejection letter. There's some counties in Tennessee and I think Minnesota or Michigan that have tried to pass us where they basically write a letter saying, look, we just don't want refugees here. One of the problems is the refugee vetting program has been abysmal failure in several issues. The Boston bombers, those are people who were supposedly asylum seekers. They were able to go back to their country. They should have never been accepted.
Let's just think back to Clinton and Fort Chaffee.
Yeah, Fort Chaffee.
I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, that was an absolute
We emptied the Cuban prisons and put them in northwest Arkansas.
Yeah, and it ended up in a riot. Dearborn, Michigan is now basically a Sharia, is no longer the United States of America, it's a Sharia law location. And so there is, that's one of the issues that need to be dealt with. Also,
Yeah, 'cause I couldn't pin Hutchinson down on that either, because I'm sure that Rebecca told you, I called and got some information on the resettlement program, and supposedly there were like less than 54 or so, and most of them were from East African countries. There were some from Middle Eastern, but not many. But I later found out, as you alluded to, that the people that were vetting them were the same people that were sponsoring the whole program in the first place.
Yeah.
And but I couldn't get his representation to validate and verify where ASA stood on Sharia law. All they would say was the reason he didn't vote against it was because he thought it was a negligent vote because it wasn't ever going to happen in the first place, which is a bunch of BS.
Well, I'll agree with you because here we go.
You got to take a stand.
He can take, and I think Ace is a great guy, okay? And
He's a politician.
but he's a politician. But the main thing is he's leaving politics, right?
Sure.
And, he can tell you these 3 or 4 stories about these terrible situations that have happened to these people. But what about all the other stuff that happened in the 80s that we took on as Arkansans? Actually got Bill Clinton kicked out the first time. Besides that, and $25, he wanted to make, you couldn't change your tag from one car to another without paying the other $25. But yeah, I mean, you can't take these people on, and you can get enough sob stories to where I'll take on this one person, but do we want to make it carte blanche? We already got a system that is coddling people to not work. And we are having to bring in workers and we see it all over southeast Arkansas, to do the work. While we know we have people sitting.
Yeah,
And,
regarding the refugee program, the first step is that they're supposed to apply for the Office of United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. And the United Nations has been notorious for failing America on a whole host of issues. Then, of course, they're supposed to be vetted by the State Department, and as I said before, those are the same people that tried to impeach Clinton.
Yeah, they never make a mistake, right?
Yeah, exactly. But that's something that is being worked on as something that we presented in counties. Another thing is a little more popular is the Bill of Rights Ordinances. This was actually passed in Scott County. There's actually an effort to pass this in Benton County by a bunch of libertarians up there, and then there's an effort closer to home. It's Hot Spring County, Melbourne. I was actually doing a live stream on various issues, similar to what I'm doing now, and some guy said, yeah, I'm doing this over in Hot Spring County, and it's actually February 25th.
That's in Alvin, right?
Yes, at their courthouse. And they're going to go there, just like in Scott County, they're going to go there and they're going to try to present this Bill of Rights ordinance. Now, some people are trying to focus it and saying it's only a Second Amendment ordinance. This was because it was very popular in Virginia. That was kind of the main issue. I call it
Drew County, a core court member of Drew County has talked about doing it as well.
Is this publicized where all people and citizens within the state here are aware of what's going on?
Well, that's part of the thing we're trying to do is get more people involved. That's what I would say. We need more people to show up at court meetings, city council meetings.
Because that's how our nation's being changed.
Yeah.
Very small or
Hey,
low-level offices.
12 people here.
Low-level offices that nobody thinks about, school boards. Those small areas are being infiltrated by people that are slowly planning on, they have a long-term plan. They're not trying to do it, quickly, but they have a long-term plan.
Yeah, I've heard
to change the whole fabric.
But these other people had a long-term plan and they infiltrated us and took us down. And we gotta do the same thing to take us up.
Yeah, I refer to the place as the Bloomberg Republic of Virginia because Michael Bloomberg spent millions of dollars and put his Moms Demand Action groups there to take that state and turn it blue.
A lot of our courts, district attorneys, councilmen, you'd be surprised how many Middle Eastern, how many people that have a globalist mentality are quietly being elected.
But when people get woke up and realize that they need to do something other than just wait till November, they can't have an effect. I was about to say that they recently stopped the assault weapons ban that was there. And then remember, it is now a Democrat majority. So when enough people wake up, just like it did here when they tried to silently kill a little, cut the funding of Sanctuary City bill, when enough people wake up and get involved and focus on their local officials.
Same way with the deep state, when enough people wake up and realize we've just been putting these people and letting them just go from university to into the, I don't know, all the government, CIA, FBI, all that, until they get to the point where they think they know more than us, it's wrong.
Well, we just need more transparency because America's falling asleep.
Right.
And
People
become apathetic in their lifestyle. If they knew some of these bills that were being put before the House and before the Senate and some of these things that and what was actually in them, because it's not a line item anymore, it would alarm many people, but they don't, most people would rather be secure in their ignorance, and I don't mean that derogatorily, but in their ignorance than be frightened in their awareness.
Exactly.
And that's what we need to do more than anything.
There's actually a movie I saw recently that highlights this. It's called Miss Virginia. It's having screenings all over Arkansas. If you type in movie Miss Virginia, it is about a black lady. There's a single mom living in D.C. and she had to. Her son was going to a failing school. She was able to put him in a private school, but the tuition was too much, and so she had to fight the big education machine in her area, and she had to fight the D.C. swamp because for the District of Columbia, it literally took an act of the U.S. Congress to pass this bill for regarding school funding. And so, of course, she had next to nothing in terms of funding, and she just got out and knocked on doors, had other people do the same, and started a grassroots movement. And now she's still running around doing school reform, not for the nation, but it's a movie called Miss Virginia, and it really highlights a lot of what people need to do is just get involved on a local level. There are some news sites where you can stay informed on what's going on. One is 101.1 FM, The Answer, the Dave Ellswick show. He's on from 6 to 9 a.m.
That's local.
He's in Central Arkansas. I don't think his broadcast gets down here, but if you type in on
But
your
it's
phone,
local issues is what I'm saying.
yeah, Central Arkansas. Yeah, well, the radio station, but it is Arkansas issues. He talks about a lot of things that affect us on a local level, some city and county governments. If you're online or you use your smartphone, type in 101.1 FM The Answer. And he's on Facebook, where you can see comments there. A 102.9.
101.9?
101.1 FM The Answer.
101.1.
The Dave Ellswick Show. And then 102.9K you run online. And a lot of these radio stations, they usually have like Rush or Sean Hannity or national ones, but I want to talk about the local ones because that's kind of the main thing I was focused on. Doc Washburn comes on from 2 to 6 p.m.
109.1.
102.9 KRN News Radio. That's the other radio station.
And that one does reach down here.
Yes, it does. As a matter of fact, I called Doc Washburn and informed people of this event and of the event on the 25th. Conduit News, they used to have a radio broadcast. They currently don't, but they do have articles, and they'll often write details about what's going on regarding some of these laws. And then Facebook, one group I did see was the Southeast Arkansas Tea Party. I think they still occasionally do some meetings and events around this area. And then Patriots of Act 746 Southern Chapter, they are mainly a pro-gun group. They're one of the groups that are pushing for these Bill of Rights Ordinances. I think they've been in Monticello, I know they've been in El Dorado, but they're also an active group. And then other than that, you pretty much have to type in what's going on, city council, county quorum court, and search for events that are coming up. But anyway, that's pretty much what I was here to talk about. Was just get involved locally, find out who your sheriff is, who your county official is, who your state legislature is, and what they plan to do and how to do it. And other than that, the only event I do know of is the one on the 25th. That's the folks in Malvern. I'll try to film and live stream that. You can follow me on Keep Arkansas Legal on YouTube, and I'm on Facebook. Other than that,
Keep Arkansas what?
Keep
Can you put all
Arkansas Legal.
these contacts on the group message?
And I do have a flyer that has some of this up there. Learn how to drain your local swamp. Let's see if that's it.
Oh, that's gonna be tough.
And I think it has most of it on there. I think some of the info may be off, but it has basically what I've been talking about. Anyway, you have any questions or concerns or comments?
Yeah, I thought of something that maybe more important even in all of our campaigning and everything that we try to do for the country here. But I think that if we would try to strive to please God and fear Him, put His fear in front of everything, then the Lord would prosper all the efforts that we have in our campaigns and everything. Otherwise, we're just fighting against God Himself, letting these things happen in the country as judgment. So if we fear God, then you have Him to plead for you and Him to fight for you. But otherwise, you're just losing battles, and you're going to lose because God's against you. So this country needs to put Him in front of everything, and then they'll have some real ground to win. And that's why we won in 2016. It wasn't because man voted. It's because God gave us another chance, and there's another chance yet again if the Lord pleased to let us have another year.